Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the EDHRECast. I'm Matt Morgan, and I'm joined by somebody who I asked him what it was like when he was younger, and he said I was a pretty Sonic youth back in the day. It's Dana Roach.
I got some interesting video game news this week. I'm not sure if you heard this, but apparently Mario broke up with Princess Peach.
Okay.
She asked him what the problem was, and he just said, it's not you, it's me, Mario. So, these things happen.
That's classic. I mean, my favorite Mario trivia is that his last name is Mario as well, as in Mario, and his brother is Luigi Mario. So they're both Mario. But we're getting sidetracked now. But Dana, how's it going, buddy?
Pretty good. How you doing?
Man, I'm good. I'm excited to talk about this episode. I'm bummed I missed last week. And so, of course, I had to make sure I was on this week so we could talk about Final Fantasy. But we're getting specific, at least, with what we're talking about.
Yes, we're gonna delve a little bit deeper into the actual main set versus just talking about the precons, and I'm glad we got to actually do some Final Fantasy with you, given you're our biggest Final Fantasy homer here.
Homer is a good way to put it. Yeah, for sure. I am guilty of that crime for sure. So real quick, before we get into actually gushing about Final Fantasy for an hour, we have some quick shout outs we got to do first, but we'll get to Final Fantasy very soon.
We are excited to be teamed up with Dragon Shield, our favorite maker of Magic sleeves and decked products. They just released a new line of dragon-themed sleeves and also updated their MTG Card Manager app, which you can find for both iOS and Android, searching for Dragon Shield. MTG Card Maker makes it easy to check prices for trades and to track your Magic collections, value, and stats, and you can instantly translate foreign language cards and find Oracle text and rulings. It's the perfect companion app for Magic the Gathering. Manage your cardboard treasures like a dragon.
And if you'd like to support the show, there's a lot of ways you can do that. You can subscribe on YouTube, subscribe to your local podcast app. Both those are just great free ways to support the show. You can also head to patreon.com/EDHRECast as a way to just get yourself a little something in return for supporting us, whether that's joining our Discord community. There's so many perks over there, but everybody that signs up and supports us on Patreon is still going to get access to patron-only content too. It's something great that we've had a lot of fun doing. Our patrons seem to be loving it so far, but we've been doing deck techs, talking about some new cards coming out. There's a lot of patron only content over at patreon.com/EDHRECast. You're going to want to make sure you get to. So head over there to support us. And actually, another thing that we do for our patrons too is just we give a shout out to one patron every single week. So this week, Henry Jackson, we're going to give you the very special, very coveted shout out, mostly because we're afraid that your brother Percy is going to come after us, who I'm sure he deals with a lot of Titans. There's Titan in this upcoming Final Fantasy set. There you go. So Henry, thank you so much for your support over at Patreon.
And we're going to be participating in an upcoming event in June. That's a partnership with FlyQuest Gaming and Architect that Matt's been involved in here a little bit, coordinating. Are there any tidbits about this you can reveal yet to us, Matt?
So I can't reveal anything other than keep an eye out on FlyQuest Gaming's website. There's a really, really cool event coming up. We can't give too many details, but June 3rd, so a couple days after this episode comes out, you are going to want to keep an eye out for FlyQuest Gaming's website because the official announcement will be coming out there. I know as Magic players, we love announcements for announcements, and consider this us announcing the announcement. So June 3rd, keep an eye out for FlyQuest Gaming. There's a really, really cool announcement that we'll have over there working with Architect and FlyQuest Gaming.
All right, should we jump into some Final Fantasy stuff here?
I mean, yeah, we may as well. That's the whole reason I'm here today. I don't know about you.
Absolutely.
I want to talk about Final Fantasy.
Yes.
Let's.
As someone who's currently replaying Final Fantasy 1, I'm going to actually finish it up this afternoon.
Nice.
I am hip deep in this right now.
So you're just getting familiar with all the classes, all just the foundational Final Fantasy stuff.
So I've played a lot of them, but it's been so long since I've replayed any of the games, and I think I stopped around 9 or 10 too. So I'm like, you know what? If I'm going to play them, I'm going to start from the beginning again. And like I remember like 1% of it. It's been so long. I'll get to some random town. I'm like, oh, I remember this town, and I think there's a canoe over here. Like I vaguely recall little bits and pieces. It's been so long.
But it's so good though. Yes, it's been so long, but one thing that I think just has done so well, or at least Wizards has done so well with this set, is they're still getting like all those perfect little nostalgia pieces.
Yeah.
Just everything about that. They're finding all the Easter eggs, the design of these cards. I know everybody's been talking about it, but now the set's finally here and we've seen it all. Oh my goodness. Just, it feels so much like home. Everything they did in Lord of the Rings and that whole set, they've done here, but they just dialed it up even further.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Like Lord of the Rings, I thought really did a good job nailing a lot of the characters. Man, I feel like they've done an even better job with this set so far.
Yeah.
Every new character that gets revealed, the ones I know at least from the games I played, I'm like, oh, that's like a perfect take on that character. So many of them feel that way. They feel like they've really like encapsulated what I think about what the character would look on a Magic card, having played the game.
Yeah, and just every character from so many different games, and I'm glad that they've given a lot of space for some of the lesser known, well, maybe not lesser known, but some of the games that were just happened so long ago, but they're doing such a great job at capturing what they did. Like Final Fantasy VI was kind of everybody's first, at least in America, first like introduction, but again, that was the sixth game, and they still had those others before that, and they still have those characters that are coming to life on these cards from the original games. And I could just gush for hours just about how many characters are fitting in there, because every beloved character is in these.
Yeah, if there was a game that had a favorite character of yours, throw on a card. Like
it's on a card. Yeah, it's here.
Yeah, there's just so many of them. And like you said, it's not just the main characters. There's so many like the little side characters and stuff that they've managed to find a way to represent on a card. And it nails it in a way that it's not like nostalgia bait even. It's just like an extension of the game. It just feels like exactly what I wanted to see on a Magic card from these games.
Yeah, I mean, all the characters, let's just go through it. Like your favorite could be Sid or Sid or Sid,
right.
or Sid. And we can't forget about Sid too. Like everybody loves Sid.
It's such a fun thing to explain to people who never played the games. Like, well, there's a Sid in almost every game, but it's not the same Sid.
It's a different person because it's a different world. And, you'd think they would run out of fantasies. Like one would be the final one, but
what a misleading title for that first game. It is
what a misleading title.
Fantasy.
So Dana, are there any characters like you're especially enjoying seeing? Because we can talk about this, but like, what are some specifics that you like about this?
So I had played a bunch of the old games, but like the first one that really connected with me, that I really like dove deep on and played for an extended period of time and like did all the side quests and did all of the weird little things you don't have to do to play the game was 7. Mm-hmm. I did the Chocobo breeding side quest stuff and eventually killed all the weapons and did all of like any obscure side tangent you could take in that game. I did at some point. Mm-hmm. So for me, seeing all of the stuff from that game, whether it's the characters on a card or like just individual scenes, like the clever concealment art, referencing the scene from 7, like that is the stuff for me that like has really hit home. How about you? What game for you, or what moments for you are the things that really have stood out?
So, I mean, I'm a couple years younger than you are. So I played 7, but I was
a couple.
Well, I was too young to really comprehend like what Final Fantasy VII was when I first played it.
Sure.
So when 8 came out, that was my first like big introduction, but I latched on super hard to it. Even little details like having a card for Triple Triad, which is the card game you play in the video game, which you're now playing in the in-person card game. I love seeing that. The card is great. I'm hoping to slot it into a couple decks just because of sentimental value. Mm-hmm. But that's one of the big things that I just think Gavin Verhey and the entire design team did so well, is they found all those little moments that just make you feel at home, like, oh, like they get it. They really do get it. Mm-hmm. Also, just for me, Final Fantasy 15, I know that one was kind of a big departure from what like Final Fantasy normally is, but that one, and seeing the main cast of characters with Noctis and his whole friend group there, man, everything's just hitting all the right marks. I'm brewing so many decks from this too. Like it's really hard to keep up because every day that we have more cards previewed, I was like, well, now I got to build another deck. And I just took apart a bunch of decks to make space for it.
Yeah, from the design point of view, you can tell a lot of this stuff was crafted by people who genuinely love these games.
Yeah.
And I don't want to take anything away from like past sets they've done, based on an IP like Assassin's Creed or whatever. The people clearly enjoyed that too. But there's something about this that stands out as being a labor of love above and beyond what we've seen from other of these sets. Like these are cards made by game designers who genuinely like adore these games.
And they did such a good job at tying what that character does with something in Magic. One of my favorites that I think that does a really good job of this is Garnet, Princess of Alexandria. Selesnya commander, it's 2/2 with lifelink, but whenever Garnet attacks, you may remove a lore counter from each of any number of sagas you control, and you put a +1/+1 counter on Garnet for each lore counter removed this way. And that's just such a cool way that interacts with the mechanics that they're pushing in the set. Like, we get sagas again, and I love the sagas as a mechanic. And so having ways to interact with those in a meaningful way it just does such a great job at interacting with what we already have and making the flavor for those specific characters and what they're like in the games work in a way that we as Magic players can connect with.
And from a card design point of view too, it's 2 colors, so you're like limited to the sagas that are just in Selesnya. So you don't necessarily get like just a general pile of everything that's good. You have to like be specific and limit yourself to picking the ones that are going to work with your deck. But I think the most important part maybe is like, that's a commander where, because you put counters on Garnet for the lore counters you remove, Garnet can get huge really quickly. And
big.
You have a win condition there too. It's not just a saga deck where you're going to play a bunch of sagas and hope you find a way to win a game. You have a win condition on the commander that you can build to and like adapt your strategy around that. I think it's not only is it a cool card in terms of like looking at the game, it's just a well-designed Magic card that can like make games both play interestingly and come to a conclusion.
Well, yeah, you're not just going to get a conclusion, but you're going to get so much value. You can play the long game because sagas, it's kind of like a Super Friends deck where you get so much value from one of your cards fully resolving. Well, Garnet's going to make sure you get that much more value out of every single saga because, I mean, you might just cast a couple sagas and they never go away because Garnet's just removing all those counters.
Yeah, a great design of a card and a great way to represent that character from the game as well.
Yeah, for sure. So the sagas, like I said, they are back and we have some commanders that interact with them. What do you think of these new takes on the sagas then? Because we got the summons expressed as these sagas in the game, and I am very, very excited, but I'm also excited about everything. So I need you to like give additional context.
So the sagas are representing like the summon creature spells you get in Final Fantasy. And the way they're going to work is, you cast the saga, it comes into play, has multiple chapters. During your draw step, you remove that counter or when you first cast it and move to the next chapter on the saga. But beyond just being that saga, it does a thing. So like it's usually a creature in some way, shape, or form. So it'll be, a 9/9 dragon with flying in the case of Summon Bahamut. And each chapter will do a thing representing like how the card kind of works in the game. Maybe chapter 1 or 2 will, destroy something or draw you a card. Chapter 3 will do something. Chapter 4 will do something even stronger. Then it goes away because it's a saga, probably, unless you have ways to manipulate that. But like, I think the fact that they come into play, they become creatures that you can swing with while also doing saga things and having a cap on them where they're going to disappear unless you change something is just a great little bit of design. I like sagas in general. Making them into creatures is fantastic. I love everything about these, and I've already got a half a dozen of them slotted for my decks.
I mean, I do love that Knights of the Round, which is one of the saga cards that we got. It takes the longest to resolve from any of the summons because, I mean, if you played Final Fantasy VII, you could play a mini game in the time span it takes Knights of the Round to resolve the whole spell animation.
I can't remember what weapon fight it was. I think it might have been Emerald. Whatever one it was, there was like a really super long one. And it was long because you just had to like fire off Knights of the Round so many times and just wait for the animation to resolve. And it like represents that on the card to a degree. That's great.
Yeah, it's so good. And they did a really cool job too. Like every time they've revisited mechanics, we talked about this a lot on the show, where with Partner, for example, they evolve it the next time that we see it. Yeah. And so seeing this evolution, actually we got a few evolutions of how sagas are played because not only do we have them as creatures that come in as enchantment creatures, we have flip sagas too. So we have cards like Terra Magical Adept, which comes in as a creature, comes in a 4/2. When Terra enters, you mill 5 cards, put 1 enchantment card milled this way into your hand. But then you can pay 4 mana and then Gruul and tap it and exile Terra, return it to the battlefield transformed under its own control. And you can only do that as a sorcery, where it comes back as Esper Terra, which then has its own saga abilities. And then after the last one resolves, instead of like other sagas where you have to sacrifice it, These sagas, when the last chapter resolves, you flip it back over to the front side and you get to start the process all over again. There's a few of these, but it's the first time we've seen this execution on sagas, which I am just such a fan of.
Yeah, it's kind of it's tweaking a little bit that last cycle of the Praetors we got, where they were cast as a saga and flipped into a creature. Or was a creature and flipped into a saga? I forget which sequence
it was creature that flips into a saga. Yeah.
Okay, but like kind of a similar version of that we got from these. Just like there's a little bit of a Future Sight / Modern Horizons vibe here too, where they're like, we can do anything, so let's do anything. Like let's mix whatever weird mechanical combination of the way cards play in the set, because we can. There's even like a meld.
There's a meld. Yeah.
And that's like just so fun. Like it's just fun. This is a fun set. I'm going to use that word a lot because like that's the word that keeps popping into my head whenever I look at this stuff, is just how much fun design clearly had and how much fun a lot of these cards are going to be to play.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and so they're not just fun though. Like these are
good,
hyper powerful. Yeah. Hyper powerful. Yeah. This you and I were talking, and we've been talking weeks leading up to this. This might be the deepest set just ever. There's so much power top to bottom. Like, not just is there flavor, not just is there a bunch of just fun characters, there's some absolutely silly powerful cards. Like, Dana, I know we talked and I forgot these cards were even in the set until we were getting show notes together, but the Crystal Cycle is absolutely powerful.
Yeah, powerful and deeply powerful. It's not just like there's half a dozen like really strong cards in the set. There's a bunch of really strong cards, but like even all the way down to the uncommons and some of the commons are just there's really good cards, 50 cards deep in this set in a way that is kind of unprecedented, or at least feels that way to me. Yeah. Like you mentioned the Crystal Cycle, like every one of those is really playable.
All 5 of them, yeah.
Some of them broadly, some of them specifically, but like they're all very good cards.
Well, and you know how there's always a problem when they do cycles like this where there's one or two that are obviously like head and shoulders above the rest.
Right.
Then there's another one that's kind of fine, and then there's one or two that just nobody cares about. They're never going to play. All 5 of these are super playable. All 5 just the delta between the best one and the worst one is so small. You're basically nitpicking, and you could tell me, I think this is the order of the crystals top to bottom. That's fine. And you could shuffle them around, and there's a reasonable argument for that to be the right list as well.
Sure. Yeah, you get stuff like the blue on the water crystal.
Yeah.
And they all cost 2 and double of the mana. So the water crystal's 2, double blue. And they all reduce the cost of the appropriate colored spell. So water crystal reduces blue spells by 1 mana. And then they all have like a passive ability beyond that, and then an active ability for 6 mana where you can tap it and to do a specific thing. In the case of the water crystal, if an opponent would mill 1 or more cards, they mill that many cards plus 4 instead. So instead of milling 1, they're milling 5. And it's going to be minimum of 5. If they're milling 10, they're being hit for 14 or something. And then the activated ability on that for the 6 mana tap is each opponent mills cards equal to the number of cards in your hand. Maybe that's 5 or 6 or 7. Maybe that's 20, depending on what you're doing in blue. Maybe you don't care about mill stuff and you don't want to run it, and that card is meaningless to you. But if you're doing mill stuff, that's you want this card include in your mill deck. Like that's backbreaking.
Yeah, it is.
And that's maybe the wilds, the one with the most swing on it. Like if you're not doing mill stuff, you don't care. But if you do, fantastic. And all of them have kind of that vibe where like if you were doing the thing on the card, it is almost an auto include.
Yeah, the water crystal impresses me so much because everybody wants to focus on, well, if I'm milling, I want to double it. That way I'm getting a lot of mill. Like, yes, doubling everything is fine, but doubling if you're doing 1 or 2, that doesn't matter because you're only increasing it by 1 or 2. But if you're doing a bunch of nickel and dime type of mill effects, the water crystal is, like you said, backbreaking is the perfect word for that. It absolutely just makes every little effect have a significant effect because mill is a pretty popular theme for people to be building decks for. It wouldn't surprise me if the water crystal ends up being fairly popular among mill decks.
Yeah. But we've focused on that one a lot, but like they all are really good.
Yeah, you could say the crystal, and you're going to be right.
Yeah, like the fire crystal, is 4 mana, but it gives your creatures haste. Well, usually the rate on giving all of your stuff haste is 3 mana, like that, fervor or hammer of Perforos, whatever. Okay, so it's 1 more mana.
But you also get the cost reduction. The cost reduction is absolutely huge.
Spending 4 mana to reduce the cost of all your red spells and give your creatures haste is probably good enough. I would run that artifact, let alone the ability to tap it and make a token copy of a creature you control till the end of turn. That's like just a ridiculous bonus and already good card, and they all kind of feel that way, or like they are just are good enough, and the activated ability is just makes them even better, and they were already playable.
It's just gravy, but even then, like having it be just gravy is still super powerful. Like the Darkness Crystal, there's no timing restriction on that. So with the Darkness Crystal, that's the black version where it has the cost reduction. If a non-token creature an opponent controls would die, you exile it instead, you gain 2 life, and you can pay 6 mana to tap it, put target creature exiled with the Darkness Crystal onto the battlefield tapped and under your control with 2 additional +1/+1 counters on it. So it's just a surprise, like end of turn, 6 mana, I'm going to cheat this thing into play, untap, and win.
Yeah.
This whole cycle, we could gush about only the cycle, and it's still going to be absolutely right. It's
you could do an hour-long show talking about the 5 crystals.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's not gush about the 5 crystals. Let's try to get through our list of what we wanted to do. For any of these new mechanics, I guess either the adventure lands, they have tiered spells now. Like what's something that stands out to you, Dana?
I really have liked the side quests.
Yeah.
Again, it's kind of a fun mechanic. They are a little bit like the Ixalan flip lands we had, where they come into play as an enchantment. Once you meet certain conditions, you flip them over. For example, the side quest Catch a Fish flips into a land. The black one, side quest Hunt the Mark, flips over into a creature. They all feel like side quests.
Yeah.
The Hunt the Mark one, the black one, when it comes into play, you destroy a target creature, and at the beginning of your end step, if a creature died under an opponent's control, you make a treasure, and if you control 3 or more treasures, then you transform it into a 5/6 dragon. But you're playing a game, right? You have to, do I want to keep this treasure around so I can get 3 to flip it? Do I have other ways to destroy creatures to flip it? Like, it feels like they've captured how a side quest works in a game.
And there's always somebody at the table who has some weird goal that they want to get from their deck. This gives them a perfect way to do that, which more often than not is probably going to fit something in line with what that color likes to do anyways. So yeah, I really love this achievement unlocked quite literally sometimes with this cycle. Yeah, I do love this. The first one that we saw was the side quest Catch a Fish, which I love anyways because Final Fantasy 15 is one of my favorites. But yeah, just being able to flip into a land and you can pay 3 mana on the flip side, tap the land, sacrifice an artifact, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. That's huge.
Right. These aren't just like little janky things. Like they're also very, very effective.
Yeah, for sure. So let's take a quick break. We can keep gushing about all these things that we really do love. We'd probably be here for forever, but let's get to challenge stats real quick first. Then coming out, we have some other thoughts on the rest of the set and what it means. Quick break for challenge stats, and we'll be right back. Long days at Magic events don't leave me much time for anything other than gaming. Leaving the event means you risk out on getting games in, all to end up just eating some terrible fried food that leaves you hungry anyways. Time is more valuable than anything else at Magic events, which is why I've been absolutely loving having Huel Black Edition to take with me. Huel Black is the perfect ready-to-drink meal, and it's convenient for all of your on-the-go adventures. Huel Black Edition combines the convenience of a protein shake with the nutrition of a full meal. I've been taking Huel Black Edition with me to the local game store as a way to make sure I don't have to go hungry, even though I'm not home to cook for myself. It's high in protein, so I make sure to stay full and hit all my macros while not getting loaded down with sugar. Huel Black Edition has all the macros to maintain a healthy diet with the right blend of protein, carbs, vitamins, and minerals to keep you going throughout your day. Whether it's ready to drink shake or the powder mix for yourself, there's a Huel Black Edition product for everyone. So try it today and taste the difference for yourself. New customers visit huel.com/EDHREC today and use the code EDHREC to get 15% off your first order plus a free gift. That's 15% off your entire first order and a free gift for going to huel.com/EDHREC and using code EDHREC.
That's 15% plus a free gift for new customers using our exclusive code EDHREC at huel.com. Please see our description for the terms and conditions. Skip the stress, not the nutrition. Try Huel today for complete nutrition bottled.
Well, let me get us started off, and then I know that I'm a broken record at this point, but another set, another divination variant, and folks, once again, I am here to ask you to stop playing divination because we have so many good variants. Once again, tweaked to something you might want to be doing with, any strategy in that given deck. And so this time we're going to talk about Combat Tutorial, which people haven't had a chance to get to play it. I know this is in the Final Fantasy set itself, but if you are playing in a +1/+1 counters deck and you're playing in blue, don't play divination. There's still thousands upon thousands of people playing divination, and Combat Tutorial is that 2 and a blue sorcery that lets you draw 2 cards, but it also lets you put a +1/+1 counter onto a creature you control. It is just one of those things that I love doing in all of my decks, where it does a little bit of everything. It draws cards, it keeps those wheels moving forward. It makes sure that your strategy is getting fed into. It's so easy to have all these cards that maybe do one thing or another, whether it's the setup or the payoff. Why not just have a card draw spell that does both of those things? And so Combat Tutorial is for sure a card you want to cut divination for if you are still playing it. We are at this point, we are doing you all a disservice as content creators if you are still playing divination in your decks in 2025. So if you still have it in a deck and it is a +1/+1 counter deck, play Combat Tutorial instead. It is going to be a 10-cent card, and you absolutely need to make that switch.
This week's listener challenge is brought to us by patron supporter Moj, and it's for Taval the Balanced Scale. And as a reminder, how Taval works, Sultai in 1 for mana. Whenever it attacks, mill 3 cards, then you can return a land card from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. But most importantly, whenever 1 or more cards leaves your graveyard, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. And Moj says he thinks more people should consider running Ayara versus Locthwain in the deck because it offers a potential win condition. Specifically, whenever Ayara or another black creature enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses a life and you gain a life. The zombies that Taval makes are black, and it'll be triggering Ayara to drain the table every time you get a Taval trigger. And additionally, it can 3-card combo with Titan's Nest if your graveyard is big enough. Titan's Nest lets you just exile a card from your graveyard to make a colorless mana. If you have enough cards in your graveyard, exile a card that makes a zombie that triggers a drain off of Ayara, and then rinse and repeat. If you have enough cards in your graveyard, that's a 3-card combo to just drain the table out. But even by itself, IR is a good include in that deck. It's doing a lot of the things you want to be doing, and I agree it should be in more than just 10% of the Taval decks. Mm-hmm. And Challenge the Stats is brought to you by Cardsphere, our favorite way to get the cards we need to build the decks we're brewing. Just go to cardsphere.com/EDHRECast to get started today.
All right, so Dana, now that we've gotten to gush a little bit, I do have some small concerns about this, and it kind of just all boils down to the fact that it almost feels like Final Fantasy might be too good for its own good, if that makes sense. It feels like it could almost start to dominate the format a little bit, and I want to explain what I mean by this a little bit, because I know that's kind of a scary thing to say, but basically it all boils down to some of these commanders, some of these legends are just such pushed versions of prior legends that we had. So I think the obvious example for me is Terra, Herald of Hope. That is the face commander from the Final Fantasy VI Precon, where it's Mardu colors. At the beginning of combat, you mill 2 cards and Terra gains flying. And then whenever Terra deals combat damage to a player, you may pay 2 mana. And when you do, return target creature card with power 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. So right off the bat, there's a direct line to what Alicia, Who Smiles at Death is, where it's that old Mardu commander. When it attacks, you can pay hybrid Orzhov, when 2 of those, to get something with power 2 or less to the battlefield tapped and attacking. Now, there's a little different timing restrictions around that, but Terra, Herald of Hope, to me, seems like just such a just strict upgrade. And I hate saying strict upgrade because that never really applies, but Terra really feels like something that is better. You could swap Terra Herald for Herald of Hope into an Alesha deck, put it in the command zone, just take Alesha out, and that deck is automatically better for it. And that's the type of deck building and type of pushed commanders that I don't love seeing all the time when there's something already there. And I'm wondering if you see that at all when you're looking through the set, or am I just crazy here?
No, absolutely. So the problem here is the fact that We talked about how many games there are and how many characters there are and stuff. And they have to make those into legendary creatures. That's like just how the game works.
They have to, yeah.
But like the end result is there's over 160 legendary creatures in this set.
Yeah.
And I remember years ago when we did the Dominaria set that had all that was a sub theme with the legends, and it was I think 50 some. And we were talking about what a crazy amount of legends that was for a set. This is
so many.
over 3 times as many in this particular set. So as a result of that, like, you know, when you don't have as many legends and a creature overlaps with a legend, well, it can't be in your command zone, even if it's better. So you might include it in the deck, but like that's kind of where that ends. Well, when there's this many legends, a lot of those creatures that wouldn't be a conflict in the past wind up being a conflict because they are also legendary. And then you get situations where you get a commander doing the same thing some other commander does, but better.
Yeah, I think another example that comes to mind is Lice Hexed, where it has cost reduction built in. It's a 2/2 prowess and Azorius colors. Now, you do lose a color, but it just seems like it's so much more powerful than Shu Yun Silent Tempest, where you have to pay that hybrid mana again to give it that activated ability of getting double strike. Well, with Lies, you just cast 2 spells and you get double strike anyways.
Yeah.
So there's a whole bunch of cards like this. I know Choco, Seeker of Paradise, you kind of side-eyed that card when it was first released too, as like, well...
Yeah, I mean, it's basically going to be doing what Chulane is doing, but I mean, I guess there's a restriction. You have to run birds in the deck, but like, there's plenty of decent birds. You know, casting your Birds of Paradise on turn 1 feels pretty good in most situations. Feels even better in that deck.
Yeah.
So yeah, you get situations like that where you get, you know, it's just a Bant generating you lands and value off of playing creatures that you want to be doing in Bant anyway. We always get one of those, you know, once a year or so. This is just a really strong version of it. But like that, again, when you're printing 160 plus legendary creatures,
something's going to slip through. Yeah.
It's going to be some real good ones in the command zone for sure.
Well, and I feel like we've been talking about all these powerful commanders, favorite characters of ours. We haven't even talked about Vivi yet. And Vivi might be the most egregious version of this, where everybody loves Vivi. Vivi is from Final Fantasy IX, cute little black mage, great character. Fantastic character. I have a bunch of friends.
On average, I would guess the probably most favorite character overall of the most people in the game.
And close to iconic. Like, if you think of a Final Fantasy character, like that only could really exist in Final Fantasy, Vivi's up there.
When I started my Final Fantasy 1 replay, my black mage, I named Vivi. Yeah.
Perfect. But even then, the card, which everybody was hyped about, this is probably the most talked about. It is the most popular commander so far. People have been building the most decks from Vivi. It's the Izzet Spellslinger commander. So it's 1 and a blue and a red for a 0/3. Very, very scary, but has an activated ability for 0 mana to add X mana in any combination of blue and or red, where X is Vivi's power. Activate only during your turn and only once each turn. And then it doesn't seem that scary, but then when you see the rest of Vivi's abilities, where it is whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you put a +1/+1 counter onto Vivi, and it deals 1 damage to each opponent. So that is so accidentally bannable, and I don't say that lightly.
Finally found a way to make Blazing Shoal good. we did it, fam.
Finally,
or like finally found a great shell for an egg stack.
I mean, it's not like isn't need any help either, because you also had Droira Weatherlight Captain, which is able to just crank through everything, and this is just doing it for every non-creature spell.
Yeah, this one's kind of I felt a little bit like this, how I felt about the Marvel Storm card, where like it's a great character and the deck's going to kind of be a bummer to play against, because it's going to be one where I can't let you play your commander successfully or I'm just going to lose.
Yeah. And it stinks that like it is such a beloved character.
Yeah.
And it's going to be one that is kill on sight, which why would you kill Vivi on sight? That's very rude of you.
That just feels bad. That feels terrible.
But yeah, it does think that like that is a automatic, like I can't let you untap. But also, Vivi isn't even the like only busted Izzet commander. Like, everybody I want to say is sleeping on Tella, Great Sage, which is 3 in Izzet colors, but you get a 3/3, and this has just as many abilities here. So whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create a 1/1 colorless hero creature token. We've seen that ability all over the place. But if you spent 4 mana to cast that spell, you draw 2 cards. And then if 8 mana or more was spent to cast that spell, you sacrifice Tella and it deals that much damage to each opponent. And I don't know about you, but Izzet colors really struggle to generate a whole lot of mana.
Right. Yeah.
I don't think that anything could go wrong here.
Yeah. I mean, another one that I think is going to be played really powerfully and that you can't really let the person untap with is Lightning Army of One.
Yeah.
First strike, trample, lifelink. Whenever lightning deals combat damage to a player until your next turn, if a source would deal damage to that player or permanent, it deals double that damage instead. I mean, there's a bunch of ways to basically kill people really easily and really quickly with lightning as well. So yeah, again, if this was just a random soldier in a deck, much less scary, but it's a legend that's going to be in the command zone, and it makes it much easier to build around, and it's going to make for a scary deck to face off against for sure.
Well, and the scariest part about lightning isn't just that it doubles the damage from you. It deals double damage from everyone coming around the table. That is so scary.
Yeah.
And it's limited, so it's not just a damage doubler, because so much of the time when you see a card come down that doubles all the damage that's dealt, well, that's going to hurt you too. This only hurts that one person.
Yeah.
Being 3 mana, having first strike so that you can have first strike go through, and then the rest of your army hits that person.
Yeah.
That's such a scary combination. This deck is going to be fast.
Yeah. This, I mean, it said right there in the name, it's lightning and it's an army of one. This is going to be, again, a commander that you just have to deal with or you're going to be in trouble.
So totally checks all those boxes. One card, the only non-legendary creature in this set is Albed Salvagers. And I don't know that actually is the only non-legendary creature, but it feels like it sometimes. But this is another card too. It's 2 and a black for a 2/3. Whenever this creature or another creature or artifact you control dies, target opponent loses 1 life and you gain a life.
I think this is the first time we've seen it worded the way that artifacts can die too. That's interesting little wording. I'm wondering if we'll see that moving forward.
I mean, maybe. Who knows? Whether it's sacrificed or all sorts of ways there. But there's a lot of types of effects here. There's Naughty Ears, Nightblade 2, Mirkwood Bats. But Albed Salvagers feels very, very pushed too. And there's always like a little bit of a tweak here between all these different variants. But Albed Salvagers definitely feels like the newest, and there's a lot of potential here too. Yeah.
I mean, at this point, there's probably too many aristocrat effects to run in one deck.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe that makes it safe if you have to add this and pull out your Blood Artist or something. You know, I guess it's different than being able to just stack them up and have all of them in a deck. At some point, you have to make a choice. So maybe that is kind of a balancing effect. But yeah, really, really strong card.
Well, I think that also applies just to so many cards, especially we talked about how many legends are in this set. Just the density of legends. I said it as a joke that Albed Salvagers is the only non-legendary creature, but it really does feel like that sometimes. And the density just, you were never going to do this set without a million legends. That just wasn't going to happen. So I need to clarify that. Like, I know why there are so many, but it is so easy to crowd everything out too. Like a card that I think would have been super, super cool to see even a year or two ago, Edgar Master Machinist. It's a new Boros commander. It's 2 red and a white for 2/4. And then once during each of your turns, you may cast an artifact spell from your graveyard. And if you cast it this way, that artifact enters tapped. And then whenever Edgar attacks, it gets +X+0 until end of turn, where X is the greatest mana value among artifacts you control. That's such a cool little take. It's not equipment only. It's a cool Boros way to get buffed up. And it still is doing combat things. But I really, really like this, and I wish it just wasn't crowded out. Like if you look at it, of the 100 new cards that are in the precons, it is the number 96th overall in terms of popularity. And that card's sweet. It's a sweet card.
It's a great card, and it's cool to see Edgar before he marries Olivia Voldaren. That's one of like a little weird thing we have with this set too, because these are Final Fantasy characters. We do get like weird names that overlap in ways we wouldn't have had, you know, if it was just Magic only. So that kind of creates some interesting things, I think.
I'm so mad at you right now, but I also just appreciate that. Oh my goodness. Well played. Well, okay. But I get it. So with that, I do want to take a turn. Let's get back into the positive headspace, because I don't want to get too negative, because this set still is incredible. So Dana, you put in the show notes that you really like some of these takes on some of the archetypes that they were playing around with. So I want to get your stance on that, and just what else about the set is good? What do we enjoy about it?
So one of the things they bake into a set is an archetype that you are encouraged to play in draft or kind of in a pre-release or whatever it is. Some kind of a theme that will be in, the partner colors, or in, if it's a 3-color set, maybe in whatever 3-color set the grouping has to be for that particular Magic set. And a lot of times there's not a lot of maybe originality isn't the right word, but there's only so many different things you can do with those draft archetypes. White blue flyers is one we get in more sets than we don't for the Azorius the Azorius archetype. The one we got for Rakdos this set is they called it Black Mage Aggro, and it's basically kind of a spell slinger situation where there's a bunch of Black Mage tokens that you can make, or one actual legend, Black Waltz. It says whenever you cast a non-creature spell, it deals some amount of damage. Black Waltz deals 2, the mage token deals 1. That's not a thing you ever see in Rakdos colors, where that's feels very Dimir, or maybe even Izzet. And having that for an archetype in Rakdos, I think, is really fun. Not only is it really fun, I think it also doesn't necessarily break existing decks. If that was in Dimir, or I think if that was in Izzet, that would be a whole lot of tools for decks that are already doing something similar. But because it's in Rakdos, it limits how many of these new really powerful things can go into existing decks. So it's a cool new thing to do for an archetype for Rakdos, while also not giving too many toys to the Izzet and Dimir decks that are doing something similar.
Yeah, Dana, I do like that slight twist on everything. They did that kind of too with the blue-red archetype, where it's not just about how many times can you cast spells and how many different ones can you get out and just crank through your deck. They're rewarding you for casting big spells, and that is a nice twist. Usually it's prowess, where you just want to cast a bunch of 1 and 2 mana spells that cantrip out, whereas this is actually trying to cast big and meaningful non-creature spells. So having a little bit of variance. The rest, it kind of falls into what you kind of expect. Blue-white artifacts, having Gruul be landfall, everybody gets that. So having a chance to have a little bit of a twist is nice every now and then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it also really not only does it make for those limited formats more interesting, it opens up a lot of kind of archetypes and decks. If you want to build that Black Waltz deck, you might have to dig a little bit deeper to find tools to really make it work in Rakdos colors than you do if you're doing it in Izzet, where a lot of the cards feel really obvious. Maybe I think I enjoy that when there's a brewing challenge versus all of the pieces being automatic. I like that a lot.
Yeah, for sure. There gives players a lot of creativity to move around in absolutely. There too. So,
yep.
Well, so one thing I know so you and I both have equipment decks, and I want to give a shout out to how cool all the equipment is in this set, because there's a ton of iconic weaponry from the Final Fantasy games, like the Buster Sword, Ultima Weapon, all of these big and powerful effects. Are you excited as I am for this? Because it has me really, really jonesing to upgrade my equipment deck.
Yeah, there's a bunch of good. Maybe at this point, the density of good equipment in the game is challenging. The things you're going to have to pull out to make room for it, which is kind of a balance to a degree as well. When there were 5 sort of X and Y in the deck, in the game, you just ran all of them. Well, now that there's 11 different versions of that, you have to be a little more picky. And I think that's where we're at a little bit with equipment too. Every time there's a new great piece of equipment that comes out, you're not removing, a bone something saw. Kind of mediocre. Yeah. Right. You're not taking out trusty machete anymore. You're taking out something real good. There is an equilibrium that I think happens there. There's a ton of good pieces of equipment. I think I have 4 in my list I'm already looking at. I'm not going to find room for all of them, but they're all good enough to be worthy of consideration in that kind of a deck.
Well, okay, so is Buster Sword, does it live up to its status then, that's Cloud Strife's big weapon in Final Fantasy VII. It's absolutely silly. It's 3 mana for an artifact. It's not even a legendary equipment. It is just an equipment. But equipped creature gets +3/+2, and then whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you draw a card, then you may cast a spell from your hand with mana value less than or equal to that amount of damage without paying its mana cost. It has an equipped cost of 2.
having card advantage on equipment is so good. Yeah.
It's so, and the casting it for free. I mean, Voltron decks, listeners, I don't know if you know this or not, are notorious for having very small creatures that get chump blocked very easily. And so I don't see, no, Buster Sword is sweet. This is absolutely incredible.
Well, or there's the one, I'm not even sure how to say the names, Ader and Prewin. Artifact equipment where it has the equipped creature gets base power and toughness XX, where X is your life total. That's crazy.
It's so big.
Your creature can just, a worst case scenario, it's becoming a 12-12, 14-14 or something pretty often, but it might be like a 60-60 depending on how, like, if you're gaining life.
If you're playing the right deck, yeah.
And if it's 60-60 and your creature has a lifelink and you put this on there, then your life total is up to 120 and the creature's that much larger next turn. Yeah,
it gets out of hand really quickly. I am actually mad that Lionheart, which is Squall's sword from Final Fantasy VIII, is just a uncommon kind of throwaway 4 mana. When it enters, it deals 2 damage to any target, and equipped creature gets +2/+1. That is not what Lionheart was if you played Final Fantasy VIII, and this propaganda against Final Fantasy VIII will not be accepted or tolerated.
But like we got Barrett's Wrecking Ball arm, which is pretty great. There's a lot of the Magitech site. There's a lot of really cool things in here to see. I agree. Lionheart was a little bit disappointing. I thought that would be a little more of a premium piece of equipment, but there's a lot of cool stuff, and there's a bunch of actually good reprints too. And we got versions of a bunch of the mage equipment. There's a black mage's rod. There's a blue mage's cane. So like those are all maybe not like overwhelmingly powerful, but again, it's just great to see them in the game.
Well, and I like the job select, because you mentioned some of these equipments. Again, every time that we see some living weapon variant, it gets a little more interesting, gets more specific, and applies to the set that it's coming out in. So Black Mage's Rod is one that's really, really cool. It comes in, has job select where it creates the 1/1 colorless hero creature token, and then Black Mage's Rod gets attached to it. And you have a whole bunch of equipments that have that job select ability. So it is fun seeing something from these Final Fantasy sets that is so directly tied to it, and you get to kind of change the job select, whether it's Final Fantasy 14, where like that whole mechanic was selecting the job you want to do, but then too, like in the early Final Fantasies, you could level up your characters and have them go into different jobs. So I love the flavor here. It's so fun. It's just another take on a mechanic we've already seen a little bit of, and just improving it and making it apply to this specific set once again. And just, it's great. The flavor's perfect.
And from a design perspective, does a lot of things. Like, okay, if you're playing that, you want to take advantage of it coming into play attached to a token, that's useful. Do you want to take advantage of it turning your creature into a wizard? There's a lot of decks out there that are built around the party mechanic. So it lets you do a few things with the party mechanic. Maybe that's useful. Maybe the Spellslinger portion of it's useful to deal damage on spellcast. A lot of these cards may not be the most amazing thing, but they do a bunch of little things and might have homes in very different decks, which I think is a lot of fun in terms of design.
Yeah, just finding all the flavor, even the side quest, the play Blitzball, flipping over into World Champion Celestial Weapon, which is another equipment there. So much fun. I'm just really loving all the nice touches. Like you said earlier, Dana, you can tell that they truly loved the source material when they were designing all of these cards, because of all of these just well-intentioned nods that just carried out so stinking well into whatever they were trying to design on that given card.
Yeah, everything about this is very impressive. And I guess I'd like to note this too. We all really enjoyed the last 3 sets at the end of 2024.
Yeah.
And then we raved about Dragonstorm, and now we have this set. That's a very impressive 5-set run here they've so kind of gone on.
So good.
I mean, Aether Drift, maybe we didn't love that much, but still, if 5 out of 6 that we all were pretty big fans of, that's a real good run from WotC. And having this be the capper on it is impressive.
Wizards has totally been on a heater lately. And last year where it was kind of Karlov Manor into Thunder Junction, the two of us, we were kind of lukewarm on that. I know some people, if that was your jam, that's awesome. For sure. This is our jam. And
absolutely.
This is my moment to shine, and I am absolutely here for it. But you're right. The last 5 sets really have just been knocking it out of the park. Ever since going back to Bloomborough, everything since then really has been at least very, very good, with the exception of Aether Drift.
Yeah. It's a good time to be a Magic player. It's a good time to be a Final Fantasy fan. It's a great time to be a Magic player and a Final Fantasy fan.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I don't have too much else to say here. I could be here for a while, but for the sake of our audience and listeners out there, I'm not going to bore you with repeating myself and just talking about Noctis and the rest of the Final Fantasy 15 crew. I mean, Dana, you also have to go finish your playthrough of 1.
I do, yes. I'm not joking. I paused the game. I beat the first 4 bosses in the last dungeon, and I need to go fight Chaos last. So I'm 20 minutes away from finishing it.
I'm so proud of you. Well, hopefully you enjoy the rest of your journey, and once you get to like the next generation ones, and how are you going to handle 14? Because that one is an MMO. You're going to be going for a
real
while.
Graphics, yeah. It'll be curious. It'll be fun watching like the graphics gradually like increase from 8-bit, 16-bit as I go here.
Yeah, 16 was a gorgeous game. I mean, that granted, it's like the most modern and recent one, but that's kind of cheating, I guess.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm
We'll see.
long ways away from getting up to that point in the games.
They might have 17 out by the time you get caught up. But
yeah.
For your sake, I hope they don't, though.
Well, I am Dana Roach. You can find me online at Dana Roach. I'm writing articles for EDHREC, and you can find all of us together at patreon.com/EDHRECast.
And I'm Matt Morgan. You can find me on pretty much any social media platform at Mathimus55. That's MATHIMUS55. And don't forget, we are proud to team up with Dragon Shield, who make some of the best sleeves out there. So if you need something to protect all of these Final Fantasy cards you're going to be getting, all of these hard to find limited edition versions, make sure you protect them with the best sleeves out there. And that is definitely with Dragon Shield. And with that, folks, we are going to sign off. So everybody, enjoy Final Fantasy. It is going to be such a fun time. And until next week, everybody, don't forget to EDH wreck your deck before you wreck your deck.